Hello and welcome to Election Brief here on your election headquarters. I'm Arba Kumson. Election Brief is brought to you by Petrosol. And coming up in this edition, President Akufo-Addo leads armed forces to pay tribute to late former President Rawlings. We have the latest as he commiserates with the family of the former president. More as several politicians and statesmen troop to his rich residence to pay their last respects.
If this government want to immortalize JJ, they should restore all the celebrations that he has started as a way of remembering the good thing he had done.
Also at the Ridge residence is former President Mahama leading a delegation there. Earlier, he led the NDC political committee to consider the steps towards honoring the memory of ex-President Rawlings.
It's our duty as a party to ensure that his place in history is assured and guaranteed, and that we eulogize him.
Also, former President John Kufuor has been speaking about his predecessor who never saw eye to eye with him on matters of national importance. We'll bring you details, and later we'll bring you the lighter side of the man popularly referred to as JJ.
He beckoned to his interpreter, his translator, to join him. Then he started. Oh, la la la, li, li, li.
All these and many more in the next hour. I'm Arba Kumson. Election Brief is live on your JoyNews channel, also live on our social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as we said earlier, it's brought to you by Petrosol. Stay tuned in. Thanks again for your company. Now, President Akufo-Addo has been commiserating with the former First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, and family members of former President Rawlings Friday. Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings passed away at the Kolubu Hospital on Thursday after a short illness. His death has sent shockwaves, not just in Ghana, but across the world. Earlier, President Akufo-Addo led the Ghana Armed Forces to observe a minute's silence in memory of the late former President Rawlings.
Let me ask all of you to be outstanding in honor of the memory of the late President, first President of the Fourth Republic and former Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, His Excellency Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, one of your own, who yesterday joined his ancestors. May so, and the souls of all the faithful departed rest and abide in the bosom of the Almighty until the last day of the resurrection, when we shall all meet again. Amen.
Now, contrary to reports that the former First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, is on admission at the hospital, she was at the Ridge residence looking healthy. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobby was with the president in the home of the Rawlingses. He joins us via Zoom. Elton, you were in the hall with the president and the team. How did the interaction go?
Well, it was a very sober atmosphere as we met it when the president arrived at the Ridge residence of the former president. He was ushered into the living room where the immediate family members had taking their seats waiting for him to arrive. And he was there to officially commiserate with them following the formal announcement that was made to him last night at the Jubilee House by the immediate family members of the former president after they announced formally the passing of Mr. Jerry John Rawlings. So He was there to pay his condolences to the immediate family, especially the wife, Nana Kunedu Rawlings, who was seated together with the daughters and the immediate family members. And the exchanges were cordial, sober. Bottom line, government wants to collaborate with them to ensure a befitting state funeral for the former president. And the President Akufo-Addo was received by the head of the family, but the introductory remarks were done by the Member of Parliament for Koliklote, Dr. Zanacho Rawlings, who said that there's already a committee put in place. They are working closely with the Chief of Staff's office to ensure that the plan of government and the plan of family is aligned to ensure that there is no overlapping in terms of the organization and the holding of final funeral rites for the late former President Araba.
All right, and Elton, I mean, there were reports earlier that the former First Lady had taken ill. Did you see her? What was her demeanor like?
Indeed. The visuals on your sets clearly answers that question. She interacted with the president. At some point, she would force a smile, and it was very, revealing. Before, there had been various reports on social media suggesting that she may be also receiving treatment in the hospital for an unknown ailment. But when we got there, we saw her. She was seated together with the immediate family members in black attire, black cloth over the head. I mean, significant or in line with Akan custom. She would not shake hands with anybody until and after the funeral, and that was clearly done. But she interacted with President Akufo-Addo along the line, even though the daughter decided to speak on behalf of the family. She was hale and hearty. No indication whatsoever of somebody suffering from any ailment that, may have prevented her from participating fully in the engagement that took place in her own living room.
Many thanks, Elton John Brobe,
yes,
our presidential correspondent there.
After the visit to the home of the former president, President Akufo-Addo then went on to the Accra International Conference Center, where a book of condolence has been opened in the name of the former president. I can read through the comments made by President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Dr. Bawumia when they had the opportunity to write in this particular book. President Akufo-Addo was the first. He says that your role in the establishment of the Fourth Republican Constitution is exceptional. Ghanaians, especially our nation, will remember you accordingly. For me personally, I appreciate very much our friendship. Comrade, farewell, and rest peacefully in the bosom of the Lord. And this is President Akufo. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, also says that it was such shocking news, so sudden, so unexpected, but God knows best. When the history of Ghana is written, the phenomenal role you played in the building of our nation can never be forgotten. You were so kind and cared about the poor. May your soul rest in perfect peace. Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana.
Many thanks for those updates. Elton John Brobe is our presidential correspondent. As you heard there, the president and the vice president were at the Accra International Conference Center, where a book of condolence has been opened for well-wishers to pay their last respects. Now, former President Mahama is assuring that the NDC will do all it can to ensure that the place of former President Jerry John Rawlings is secured in history. A meeting of the Political Committee of the National Democratic Congress happened earlier today and was chaired by the flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama. The leadership of the party had met to discuss the legacy of the former president and share ideas on how they can assist the state to give a befitting send-off for Mr. Rawlings. Several bigwigs of the NDC, including Kwame Nahoi, former Speaker of Parliament Dua Jaho, Mr. Dan Aburapi, among others, were at that meeting. Here's former President Mahama introducing the meeting earlier.
In Ghana's history is assured, and it's a positive one, because he's responsible for ending coups in Ghana and is responsible for founding the longest period of stable democratic governance in Ghana's history. And so it's our duty as a party to ensure that his place in history is assured and guaranteed, and that we eulogize him for the role he has played in bringing us this far. And so we will start this meeting by taking an update. Happily, Uncle Dan is here, and he's a close family member, and so I'm sure that he will have more information about what the intentions of the family are. And certainly our party will play the role that we're expected to do in order to honor his memory. So welcome once again, all of you, and thank you for coming at such short notice.
And we do understand that the former president is at the Ridge residence of former President Rawlings. We'll be bringing you updates on that. But let's turn our attention on flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Ivor Kobina Greenstreet, who says he's saddened by the demise of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. He describes Mr. Rawlings as a brave man who played his role under the Fourth Republic. According to him, Ghana must be thankful for the life of the ex-president. Ivor Greenstreet was interacting with residents of Adan West District about the CPP's position on releasing salt and other mining sites to investors. He spoke to JoyNews.
Heard some unfortunate news about the passing of the former president of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. I, on my personal behalf and also on behalf of the wider Convention People's Party, would like to express our heartfelt condolences to his wife, Nana Konedu Ajiman Rawlings, his immediate family, and all of the NDC party as well. He played his role as a brave and courageous man, and Ghana has much to be thankful for his contribution to this nation's development and, in fact, the existence of our Fourth Republic.
Now, former President John Kufuor has expressed grief at the passing of his predecessor. In a statement released a while ago, Mr. Kufuor said although he and the former president did not agree on many matters of state, he felt Mr. Rawlings was doing the best he knew and could under the circumstances. The statement was issued earlier Friday, and here are extras. It reads, "My wife Theresa and I are deeply saddened by the passing of former President Jerry John Rawlings, whose untimely death, reported yesterday, came as a thunderbolt to us and our children. President Rawlings was the longest-serving head of state since our nation's independence in 1957, and although he wasn't always, and even though it wasn't always he and I agreed on many matters of state, I felt that he was trying to do the best he knew and could under the peculiar circumstances. When the time came for him to step down as president on 7th January 2001, he obliged and obviously tried to contain whatever reservations he had about me and my government that succeeded him and his government within the bounds of the National Constitution of 1992. In this regard, whatever doubts persisted about his commitment to democratic rule became attenuated and earned him a legacy of contributing to the sustenance of democratic governance of our country till his demise. History would give him a balanced place in the annals of our nation. We are left now to mourn him and also express our heartfelt condolences to his widow, Mrs. Nana Konedu Ajiman Rawlings, their children, and the larger family. May he rest in peace in the mercies of the good Lord. Daye, President Rawlings, and is signed John Ejekun Kufuor, President of Ghana, 2001 to 2009. Now, some members of the National House of Chiefs spoke to JoyNews on the demise of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. Let's watch.
I might say I'm devastated throughout the proceedings. In fact, I was not even concentrating. I wish it's not true, but you can see the news being filtering in. It's happened, and to be honest, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, and that is all that I can say for now.
I heard it hasn't sunk in yet. I just have to go and talk to my people. It's a sad day for Ghana. We need all to mourn for him.
Oh, very shocking. Very shocking. I'm sad.
You're still watching Election Brief with me, Arba Kumsin. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back after this. You're welcome back to Election Brief. Now, the Kumasi Ministers' Conference is imploring Ghanaians to honor the former late President Jerry John Rawlings with the peaceful elections come December 7th. Chairperson Ransford Obeng, who spoke on their behalf, says the best tribute to pay the late president will be a violent-free election. Pastor Obeng, who is also head pastor for the Calvary Charismatic Center, expressed condolences to the family of the late president.
Take this opportunity to express my deep condolence to the entire family of our former late President J.J. Rawlings. This is a trying moment for them, but I pray that God will be with them, especially the wife, Nana Kunedu Ajiman. You know, almost a year ago that I lost my wife. It was not easy. But my prayer is that the same God that has kept me, the same God will keep you and strengthen you and take you through these troubling times. I also want to use this opportunity to appeal to all political parties that we are in a state of mourning, and the respect we have for our hero who is dead. Let us make sure that we go to the police station and then we will have the peaceful ever election we've ever had. That will be an honor to our former president, because that is what he stood for. He stood for accountability and probity. And so don't let this election be characterized by violence. I'm appealing to everybody, lay down all your tools and let us in a peaceful atmosphere, because we are in a mourning atmosphere. Let us go in that mourning attitude and in a peaceful way cast our ballot and elect whoever we want to elect.
We can also now listen to General Overseer of the Christian Action Chapel International, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, who says Mr. Rawlings' decision to hand over peacefully to former President Kufuor was what endeared him to him. He spoke on the Super Morning Show.
One thing that really warmed my heart was during the 2000 election. I was then in the United States, and few people who had called me, and they were very concerned whether he was going to remain in power or he will relinquish power and hand over to the Kufuor administration. And so I called him just to touch base with him and to see what was going on in his mind. And he said something that really touched my heart. And from that time, I saw him as one that really do care for his country. He said to me, that he has done his best, and he believes it's time for him and his administration or government to leave for another to come and build this nation. And he did that. I think that one he made was very courageous.
Now let's talk about his legacy. And the Member of Parliament for Ododo-Diodio constituency, Nilante Vanderpoy, has been recalling moments where the late former President J.J. Rawlings inspired him to be who he is today. And he's been shedding light on the principle that he nurtured in him.
Principles stand at that time in the party that no one person should encumber more than one position in order to afford people the opportunity to work and be able to bring the party back into power. So the issue has to do with getting people on the field. I remember very well when he was talking to me in his house that day. He said that the only reason he has nothing against Aruna Idrisu, but his point is that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. He quoted that the biblical listen to me. So he wanted me. And when I saw the list of delegates, It was just about 2 weeks to the elections. And when I saw the list of delegates, I knew it was going to be very difficult. But once Jerry Rawlings had inspired me, I felt that I was going to do what he wanted me to do just for the principle. I remember very well there was a meeting between me and Aruna and one of our loyal party elders, trying to see how the two of us will talk things out and see how we could avoid a possible contest between us. After that meeting, I went to brief him, and he told me, I will be surprised if you pull out of this fight, because I know you to be a fighter. I said, sir, yes, sir, I will go ahead and do it. So we went to Bolga against the odds. He said, I want you to contest, even if you lose. I want the principle that no one should encumber more than one position to be established by your contest. That should tell you how strong he is when he is convinced about something. And I stayed glued. When we lost the elections, we came back to Accra. He called me. He said, if you have to do it again tomorrow, I will support you to do that.
Nilante van der Poel also shared some funny comments of the late president about a book the late UN General Secretary Kofi Annan was encouraging him to write.
Kofi Annan's talk about he writing a book. And one day we told him, do you know what he told me in Ghana?
Tell me.
We at the corner.
To wait, you have time.
Yeah, he said if he want to write, in fact, he wondered whether any publishing house will get the sort of time to publish the number of pages.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be the biggest book ever.
Yeah.
And I told him, I used the word, I said, and it will be the most popular book and the bestseller.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So he's somebody who, if you don't know him, if you get close to him, you really know who the real Rawlings was.
Yeah. So you heard the Odododio constituency MP Nilante van der Poel speaking earlier on PM Express on the JoyNews channel. Now, 1111 is a popular bean joint in Takoradi established some over 50 years ago, and it has fed a lot of mouths in the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis, including the late former president Jerry John Rawlings during his time as an officer at the Takoradi Air Force Base. Now, rumor has it that the late president was owing hugely at the beans joint, but the owner says the rumor is a palpable lie. My colleague Inatalia Kwanza has been speaking with her.
I had a no TV. I have to know to work with him. All the things I have to know. Don't tell me more. You only to move. Oh, I don't now honor me. Oh, yeah. Then, I mean, being commonly, so we can oba. What to add your honor, down there. Why late now to add? No, no, actually. One of the guy knew your ban over campaign. Okay. I mean, my love, meaning come oba better. On an young you are when I made it last night. Over the bank. The Mutum Pahatan edited, no Kitan, no Quagma. If you saw one, would you have 9 euro? Memo no rough. What you must if you want to buy a jam, Nankasa or Danny would go. I got him, Akea. Ganim Nakea. And I got a Nala to identify all the words in Gabizo. No, so take Gabizo. Now you all in command.
And we do apologize for the poor sound quality. But of course, Rawlings has had many sides. He's a big tree who has fallen. The nation is in grief, but we need to celebrate this man. Even in his old age, he had the charisma and the verve to get down from traffic to direct vehicles. Mr. Rawlings was popularly named Dr. Boom. because of his speeches, which were always electrifying. He was a newsmaker, and even in death, he's making waves. We bring you the humorous side of the late President Jerry John Rawlings.
My colleague, ministers of state, honorable lecturers of the various faculties, your excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think I prefer the lady. I prefer the lady. You want to enjoy it. You want to come
on. In spite of all these, Anita, what does that make of us? Anita, mi frauti unti. Anita si mi yenu papa. Mi yenu papa Suzuki. In spite of all these, but she's getting too fair. Enjoy Sani Amanu Samanano, and yet, I see, I am about Timaminka. And she let you mention her, let us send me your papa. Anita. Young people mind this is so ya targa for power. Many years later, why not go here? Madam Fatia Nkrumah, the wife. No. Jana Kufoye. Okra no coffee no, Madam Fatia no coffee. Or this channel Kotodun, no more no alpha handkerchief towel. No, yes, sir.
The ever charismatic Jerry John Rawlings. We're taking a short break. We have more on Jerry John Rawlings for you on Election Brief. You're welcome back to Election Brief. Now, as the country prepares for what will be a crucial election, the various political parties have made a number of promises, hoping it will entice voters into their corner. Now, the MPP and the NDC have made a number of promises in the agricultural sector, which is said to be the mainstay of the Ghanaian economy, employing a sizable number of Ghanaians. At an ISA-organized forum on Thursday, some professionals within the sector have been foreshadowing the promises made by the NDC and the MPP, and they say they're not realistic in the next 4 years. They say this because of the country's low level of financial mobilization and the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. Before we take a listen to these professionals, here are a number of promises made by the two major political parties in relation to agriculture. So, on the NPP manifesto, the NPP is promising to increase local production of food to enhance food security. It also says it will continue the implementation of the One Village, One Dam community-owned managed irrigation policy and also rehabilitate existing public irrigation schemes, via especially, and develop new ones in the North and Afram Plains. The party is also promising to institute anti-dumping measures on poultry and support private sector to expand local production of poultry feed and veterinary products. It's also promising to ensure that cocoa farmers receive increased producer prices plus bonuses to encourage high production volumes and also stable prices protected against exchange rate effects. The NPP says it will provide a framework for smallholder farmers to undertake block farming and providing incentives, including land banks for large-scale commercial farm investors. It also promises to revive agricultural research at CSIR and faculties in public universities and provide a framework for smallholder farmers to undertake, as we indicated earlier, and also ensure availability as well as effective and transparent distribution of premixed fuel. Okay, let's turn our attention on the NDC manifesto and what it is promising on agriculture. And it says the next NDC government will digitize agriculture as a game changer to boost productivity and profitability, because digital technologies can help farmers and marketers of their produce work more effectively, efficiently, precisely and sustainably. It will also drive greater engagement in agriculture for women and youth, create employment opportunities along the value chain, and foster a new breed of young ICT agripreneurs. It also intends to reposition agriculture and agribusiness as a key driver for Ghana's economic growth and development. It also promises to establish a cashew development board to coordinate cashew-related issues and use coordinated strategies and investments in agriculture and agribusiness to secure livelihoods and increase prosperity for all Ghanaians. It promises to set agriculture as the central focus of the economic policy by using agriculture as a tool to contribute to managing the exchange rate and increasing direct budget expenditure on agriculture as a share of total budget expenditure from the present 7% to at least 10%. And it is also pledging to double the value of domestic and intra-regional and global export demand in agricultural services, commodities and manufactured products, and will take advantage of the emerging opportunities in ECOWAS and the African sub-region. The NDC is also promising to attract 30% of school leavers into primary agriculture and agribusiness entrepreneurship by providing agronomic and extension services support for production and agro-processing for the youth, and operationalizing 60,000 of YEA-supported commercial farms across agricultural districts. Now, a senior research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Dr. Fred Janku, says most of the promises made by the NDC and NPP in the agricultural sector are not achievable in the next 4 years. According to Dr. Janku, after an analysis of the manifestos of the two parties, it seems to him like the two parties were in a competition on who will make more promises, but not on what is realistic. Dr. Fred Janku spoke at an ISA-organized panel discussion on hosting agriculture value chains in the midst of COVID-19 and analyzing political party manifestos.
So to say just one sentence about the manifestos, and my apologies to all the other political parties, I was only able to look at the NPP and NDC manifestos because my director said I should speak for 10 minutes, so I couldn't, go into more detail about the other manifestos. My short conclusion on the manifestos would be that it seems that the parties were probably competing to see who will make the most promises. There's hardly any focus, and we know, and I believe they know, that most of the things that they put there in the manifestos to do in 4 years, most of them are practically impossible. That's why I said it appears that it's a competition to see who will make the most promises, because probably if you make the most promises, it might inure to your advantage in the election. And the keynote speaker spoke about the need to be focused. We need to focus on what is that 1, 2, or 3 things that if we do in 4 years can boost the sector, because we can't do everything. I didn't see that. I'll just focus because of time on finance, because whatever they've said in the manifestos to do, without the requisite budget, it's not going to be possible to do.
Agricultural economist Professor Irene Ejir agrees. She's asking the 2 major parties in Ghana, the NDC and the NPP, to show how they will fund their promises in the agricultural sector. Ahead of the 2020 elections, both parties have made significant promises in the agricultural sector, as you saw there. But there have been concerns about how these promises will be realized due to low funding for agriculture in Ghana.
I looked through NPP. They say they will accelerate growth by completing all the flagship projects. NDC says it will reposition agriculture as a key driver, and what caught my attention? Attract 30% of school leavers into agriculture and agribusiness entrepreneurship. So I asked myself, will there be enough budgets to keep to these promises? Because as I have shown you, so far we are doing something, but we need to push harder.
You're still watching Election Brief with me, Arba Kumson. Let's crossover live to the conference center now, where my colleague Maxwell Akbaba is joining us via Zoom. Maxwell, what is happening at the conference center as we speak?
Well, Arba, a book of condolence has been opened here at the Accra International Conference Center. So this is where we had the President, President Kufuor, and then the Vice President, Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, all coming to come and write something in the book of condolence. In fact, we've had the opportunity to see what the Vice President actually wrote. He described the news as shocking and very sudden. In fact, he described former President Rawlings as a man who cared for the poor, whose contributions towards Ghana's democracy is phenomenal. He said he can never be forgotten. Just some minutes ago, also, we met the NDC's Director of Elections. He also came here to write something in the book of condolence. We've been speaking to him, and he also described the news as shocking. He said yesterday he was at the airport, and then the news reached him. He's personally the former president, is someone who mentored him, someone who drew inspiration, a lot of inspiration from. He says, although Rawlings' body is gone, a bit of his spirit lives in dear presidential candidate John Mahama, and he believes that he would continue to keep his ideals, his values, and what he stood for, keep it aflame. He said Jerry John Rawlings stood for probity, accountability, transparency, and was someone who cared for the poor, who made sure that things were done right. He said it's a huge blow to the NDC, but they will try and recover from that blow. He says he knows that it's not going to be easy, but a good Lord is going to help them.
All right, many thanks, Maxwell. My colleague there reporting from the Accra International Conference Center, where a book of condolence has been opened for people to pay their respects to the former president. It's time now to hear directly from you, the voters. Today we are in Okanshi.
One factory, one down. 18 yeah, market woman there. Yeah, do you say about woman and not 4 more? Because they say no, what this shift by now for being yes, and then in your school. Who is baby and collaborate school? And pass one may in school assume the back. Say, Arabian or better to point. Every say, and now collecting in your family. Maybe buy a lawyer. Where lawyers was a family. If it's an another family, I had there were Ghana. So what you say? Na ma education here there.
And me mama no nyina ma twa mo friends so me vote wa Hassan yan tuma nana ba 3.5 years ni abaye ma first abaye ba na me tefe na me sorry and so na me sedora me ho to me nana wa ye bia ma me 4 more for nana to do more for nana obedi no be see di biem a chenkwa no bremu and na yesu ye di hini bi nana obedi
ne won ke mama afaji mama eni tumo ne batu etu ni tumo papa na yiwo yibipi ni mena sepi wo mi ke mi one day nke mama afa no to age mama afa because me nko menini jano ni nka fon shiki last 4 years in for shiki hanana because of a promise ne show promise FNA ka won agashi afua gaga nyoka afua be monyo efe noko ne won kashi in takendwamo mi do ma ka short akashi wona konoko na na efe mi na efe Fred Keshian efe je papa ni na na wo 30 down wo 20 o kan hie ka won tuni na to 3 o'clock onyo ma show moko ko machine ka mobo ka boto ape 2 na 14 million na ko ape which is old currency 1400 or ape dan angoy me won Keshi na na efe konoku o
minta ni nyame e ale akashi for money wo you reality ni e ba e promise wa fa wona promise no na ke ba fe e fe ni wona e wa ye minja me for more ka e ba ko e fe ni bipi ka fe ni bipi mi na fe che ko gbe ni mama e fe hospital matema rich na money be pin efe mi na efe no ni mitama no tani bi egbe one Fred Keshian that is for food and job hey what ka jemele ka je ngwemo na ba for yes e ka du koko edumi ni yes e ka du koko for yes e mi edu won takeni wo ka formo na na ti mo mo bele wo ka formo
everyone on education. Me ba no be yachi, me ba no be free education. Yan ko yachi. Me say yan ko yachi nda yan ko yachi chira. Yan ko ya ni musa. Ya say esoma na mo, esoma be yansafo. Ya esoma na tente. Yes.
Musa Muchiko ya kwa fire adwane ba. Ya be ya agban yi. Musi ya nye. Mu ba ru kura mo.
Sa ko fire musi.
Mo yesi ma ya biom.
Epesa mi unse juma ba na joma we. Na na kuba do baba ya 4 years in na ya hunswe. So so the 4 years oba kan ya. Then oba haya. Loko joma musi joma wa ye juma kura. But me ka se tam na me kofi wa yi kan no buro. Mitimi bro wa sa ko kwansa asa na me du fie. Basi se me ko yo ro me duro. Oh, me kura me tenu mo no me hunse. Na me da kura me nda. Sisi kakra bi na me du fie. Me ko sa kakra na me du. Me ko ka so kakra na me du. Mo se jo mama anya juma bia. Na 4 years no keda no. Free the case in penalty o. It is free the case in Didi. Onka tire say you the free the case in Didi onka. Na hu enti ase. Because your customers see now ba no am complaining.
Just say ya bro, away onko 76 ya baby away do na ye onko ko home da bia de asoso abofam da bia asoso na odi nam na odi bofam ye hu de oye ya bro 3 months green yellow ya bre ya de ba no cho ya sira no eni de ma onko home enu pe na ehia mama betu ya na eduma so simple because ya bre
for more to do more ebe na oye bu no enye se onya kuro enyini anase bibia di nyansa enebu oman no enti obi ntimi nka se na na bre nana de ombre for more to do more efi se amanfo nkola gufia amunko school ni ade nana baye no amanko school de onko school ni na wasako school back enti for more to do more enti nana de ye hia no Ghana ha se ye hia no Ghana ha se abaye nana baye 4 years ne no abaye emba ni shedra obi emba ye juma enti nana de ye hia no to do more.
Now let's come to the House of Chiefs, and Togbe Afede the 14th has been defeated in his quest to be retained as president of the National House of Chiefs. He lost to the paramount chief of Sefi Anhwianso traditional area, Ojia Hunho Yao JB in a landslide victory of 47 votes against 25. Nana Yaojima was there and has come through with this report.
7 members of House of Chiefs were restrained from exercising their franchise due to a court injunction served on the House. Council explained the order before the House.
So until the application is heard on merit and saying being granted or dismissed, the National House of Chiefs proceeding with what they are asking the court to not allow them to do would amount to contempt, and so far as the law of the land is concerned.
5 elected members of the Western region were among persons restrained from taking part in the election. The Gaman Chair, Dr. Ken Takite Ekotru, and Chief of Nkransa, Nana Kwame Bafo are the other 2. Obrempong Hema Denchi, one of the chiefs being exempted, however, contested the council's direction.
And I wish to put on record again that it is our fundamental human rights to exercise our franchise, and nothing ought to be put as fetters in the way to prevent us from exercising such a right.
Some chiefs had to step in as the matter continued to drag. The House agreed for the election to be held without the 7 chiefs. At the end of polls, Togbe Afede lost to Ojiahoho Yaojebi. Vice President of the House of Chiefs, Dasebre Kwebu Eusi, the 7th, also lost to Paramount Chief of Laura Traditional Area, Napuwele Kabo, the 3rd, by 28 to 44 votes.
At the end of the election, Togbe Afede, the 14th, obtained 25 votes. 25 votes. Ojiahoho Yaojebi, the 2nd, obtained 47 votes. 47 votes. By this, I am privileged and honored to announce to you that Ojiahoho Yaojebi, the 2nd, Seshi Anyafone, is duly elected as the President of the National House of Chiefs.
The President-elect assured of working with all members to better serve the nation.
When we started giving our addresses, we all preached or talked about peace and unity. And this is precisely what both of us are going to emphasize in the course of leading this house. We are going to be your chief servants and at the same time your leader. And we promise you that as much as possible we involve all of you in the decisions that we take in this house.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Nana Yaojima reporting.
And that's a wrap of Election Brief for this week. I'm Arba Kumsin. Election Brief is always brought to you by Petrosol and comes to you every weekdays from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. There's more news on My Joy Online. Have a good afternoon.